The moment the Los Angeles Lakers drafted Bronny James, the headlines erupted. The NBA had just witnessed history. LeBron and Bronny, the first father-son duo to play on the same team. It was a picture-perfect, almost cinematic moment, but beyond the fairy tale lies a much harsher truth. Because if we strip away the sentimental father-son narrative and focus purely on merit, one question becomes impossible to ignore. Would Bronny James even be in the NBA if his last name wasn't James? Basketball purists might squirm at the thought, but let's not pretend that nepotism isn't a powerful currency in professional sports. Sure, Bronny is a decent player. He's athletic, has good defensive instincts, and a solid basketball IQ. But when it comes to actual performance, his numbers at USC were alarmingly average. He played 25 games in his freshman season, averaging just 4.8 points per game, while shooting 36.6% from the field. In what universe does a 4.8 PPG score become a high-priority NBA draft pick? We've seen college players put up 20-plus points per game, dominate the NCAA, and still go undrafted. So why did Bronny, with nothing but mediocre stats and a legendary last name, get selected by the Lakers? The answer is simple: because LeBron James wanted it to happen. For months leading up to the draft, NBA analysts were practically tripping over themselves to hype up Bronny James. Words like upside, potential, and intangibles were thrown around like confetti at a championship parade. It was as if repeating these buzzwords enough times would somehow erase the hard reality staring everyone in the face. His college numbers were painfully underwhelming. We're talking about a 6'2" guard who averaged just 4.8 points per game on 36.6% shooting in his lone season at USC. If you just look at that stat line without knowing the name attached to it, you'd assume this was some undrafted player heading overseas, not someone getting drafted by one of the most iconic franchises in NBA history. But here we are. The NBA, at its core, is supposed to be a meritocracy. The best players rise to the top, and the ones who don't perform fade into obscurity. But that's a fairy tale. One the league likes to sell fans so they can pretend every draft pick and every signing is purely based on skill. In reality, the NBA is a business, and businesses don't prioritize fairness. They prioritize profit. That's why the Lakers drafting Bronny had absolutely nothing to do with basketball and everything to do with keeping their most valuable asset, LeBron James, happy. Let's not sugarcoat this. If LeBron had never mentioned his dream of playing with his son, does anyone actually believe the Lakers would have drafted Bronny? Would any NBA team have used a draft pick on a guy who wasn't even a full-time starter at USC, struggled to score, and didn't show anything elite outside of his last name? Of course not. The Lakers knew exactly what they were doing. They weren't just drafting Bronny, they were extending LeBron's contract in spirit. Think about it. If they didn't draft Bronny, there was a very real chance LeBron would walk. And when LeBron leaves, he doesn't just take his on-court production with him. He takes millions of dollars in revenue, jersey sales, ticket sales, and global media attention. But hey, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe 4.8 points per game and a famous last name really is the secret recipe for NBA success. Or maybe, just maybe, we all just watched the most obvious case of basketball nepotism ever. What do you think? Did Bronny earn it, or was this just the NBA keeping LeBron happy? Let me know in the comments. And if you're enjoying this, hit that like button and subscribe, because trust me, we've got plenty more to break down. LeBron is more than a player. He's a business empire. His presence on a team instantly makes that franchise more valuable. TV networks love him. Sponsors throw money at any team he plays for. The moment he retires, the league itself loses one of its biggest global superstars. So, the Lakers were never going to take that risk. They drafted Bronny not because they believed he was a future NBA star, but because they knew drafting him was a direct investment in keeping LeBron James in a Lakers uniform. It's not even a theory at this point. It's just common sense. And what's even more frustrating? Everyone in the NBA knows this, the analysts know it, the executives know it, the other players in the league, especially those who had to fight their way in, definitely know it. Yet, instead of acknowledging the painfully obvious, the media played along, feeding fans this idea that Bronny's draft selection was legitimate, that he earned it, that he was just another hard-working player who climbed the ranks the right way. Let's be honest. He was handed a golden ticket. Take Justin Edwards, for example. A highly touted freshman forward from Kentucky, he had all the tools scouts look for: size, athleticism, and a solid shooting stroke. He shot 48.6% from the field, 36.5% from three, and 77.6% from the free throw line. Numbers that should at least get you a second look. Yet, when draft night rolled around, his name wasn't called. No Nike deal, no special treatment. Instead, he had to settle for a two-way contract with the Philadelphia 76ers, where he'll now have to claw his way up from the bottom just to get a real shot at playing in the league. And then there's Jalen Bridges from Baylor. A senior who improved every year, Bridges was one of the best shooters in the draft class, hitting 41.2% of his threes while also playing strong defense. Sounds like the type of player any NBA team could use, right? Well, apparently that wasn't enough because he too went undrafted. Only after the fact did the Phoenix Suns decide to give him a two-way contract, meaning he'll have to grind in the G League before he gets an actual NBA opportunity. Now, compare that to Bronny. He put up 4.8 points per game and still gets to waltz into the NBA with a $5.9 million NIL valuation, a Nike contract, and the safety net of playing on the same team as one of the most influential athletes of all time. I mean, before Bronny James even stepped onto an NBA court, before he even suited up for a college game, he was already set for life financially. While most young players fight tooth and nail for recognition, Bronny had multi-million-dollar sponsorships lined up as if they were his birthright. Nike was the first to strike in October 2022, making Bronny one of their select NIL athletes. Of course, this move had nothing to do with scouting some once-in-a-generation talent. This was business, plain and simple. Nike and LeBron James have been tied together for decades, ever since the brand bet big on an 18-year-old high school phenom from Akron, and later secured him with a lifetime contract worth over $1 billion. Then there was Beats by Dre, another company with deep ties to LeBron. Back in 2008, when Beats was still carving out its place in the market, LeBron was the first NBA player to endorse the brand, helping catapult it into mainstream success. Fast forward to 2022, and suddenly Bronny becomes the first high school athlete to land a Beats NIL deal. Not the most dominant young player in the country, not the top-ranked recruit, LeBron's son. The pattern couldn't be more obvious. And to round things out, PSD Underwear came knocking, adding Bronny to a lineup of established NBA stars like Jimmy Butler, Ja Morant, Trae Young, and Tyler Herro. Now, an endorsement deal with Nike or Beats at least makes some sense. Bronny plays basketball after all. But an underwear sponsorship? It's hard to imagine that a freshman was exactly the marketing icon PSD had been waiting for. It's pretty clear this wasn't about talent, marketability, or hell, even personality. This was about one thing: access to the James name. If Bronny had been a regular recruit with average college numbers and no generational NBA connection, there's no way these companies would have come calling. Elite college players with far more impressive resumes barely get a fraction of these opportunities. Year after year, top-ranked prospects fight for a Nike contract, desperate to prove themselves on the court before a brand will even consider putting their name on a shoe. Meanwhile, Bronny had the deal in place before he even proved he could start for USC. This is the power of nepotism in sports. While other young players hustle and grind for every sponsorship, every endorsement, every deal, Bronny James was handed a fortune before he even proved he belonged in the conversation. It's not his fault. Who wouldn't take these opportunities if they were offered? But let's not pretend this is about talent or hard work. This is about legacy, privilege, and a sports business that prioritizes brand names over merit. Most second-round NBA prospects beg teams for workouts. They travel across the country, showcasing their skills in front of scouts and executives, desperately fighting for a roster spot. But Bronny? He refused to work out for multiple teams. He was selective. He had leverage that no second-round pick should have. Think about that for a second. A player who averaged 4.8 points per game and shot 36.6% from the field was in a position to reject workouts because he already knew where he was going. How many second-round prospects get that kind of treatment? The Lakers picking Bronny at number 1. 55 wasn't about potential. It wasn't about talent. It was about one thing: securing LeBron's loyalty. Because when LeBron made it clear that he wanted to play with his son before retiring, the Lakers had two choices: draft Bronny or risk losing the most valuable player in their franchise history. If LeBron wasn't involved, do we really think Bronny would have been drafted? Do we really think a team would have wasted a pick on a player who didn't even crack the starting lineup in college? No chance. Now, here's the next question. What happens next? The Lakers took a business risk drafting Bronny, not because they believe he's the future, but because they want to milk the father-son narrative for everything it's worth. But what happens when the marketing gimmick fades and reality sets in? The NBA is ruthless. The league doesn't care about storylines or emotional moments. It cares about winning. And if Bronny can't produce, the Lakers will have to make a tough decision. Will they keep giving him minutes just to appease LeBron? Or will they cut him loose once the father-son fairy tale runs its course? Let's be real. Bronny is not making the Lakers' rotation this season. He's not outplaying Austin Reeves, Gabe Vincent, or any of the other guards who have actually proven themselves at the NBA level. And when he inevitably struggles, people will start asking tough questions. Did the Lakers really draft him for basketball reasons? Or was this all a publicity stunt to keep LeBron happy? None of this is to say Bronny isn't a talented player. He is. But talent alone didn't get him here. Connections did. Would Nike have signed him without LeBron? No. Would Beats by Dre have signed him without LeBron? No. Would the Lakers have drafted him without LeBron? Absolutely not. And that's the problem. Bronny James is not a second-round steal. He's not a rising NBA prospect. He's a business decision, a walking, talking brand extension of his father. The truth is harsh, but it needs to be said. Without Daddy James, Bronny wouldn't be getting NIL money from Nike, Beats, and PSD underwear. And he sure as hell wouldn't be in the NBA. I hope you enjoyed this video and would like to watch more videos just like this one. Check out this video right here.